She's going to have it.
I'm sorry. Out of all the people that you contact, or contact you, and you're able to help them, and you give them the option of a shelter, how many would have gone actually to Las Vegas, and would they be more apt to do it here, to go to shelter if they had one here so that kids could continue school?
Well, I can tell you that, you know, the option, victims have utilized our shelter down in Las Vegas, and most victims want to be with family and friends here, and they don't want to take their children, you know, out of school or leave their jobs. And we've been able to handle all of that with, you know, through the TPO and working on safety issues, what they can do to keep themselves safe and to stay away from the abuser. Obviously, if they want to go back or they want to get back together with the abuser, you can't tell them no unless there's a TPO in place. But eventually, a lot of women, like I said, it takes 7 times, usually on the average, for someone to leave an abusive relationship. And if they want to go back, you can't prevent it. All you can do is give them the resources so they can make their life safer and hope that they will, you know, try and make their life safer. But as far as I can't answer, I can tell you that, you know, there are victims who have gone into shelter.
Yes, I just wanted a number of how many have gone to Mesquite, to St. George, to Las Vegas from Mesquite, because they knew it was offered to them and they took advantage of it.
It's always offered to them. It is always offered to them as an option. But this past year, I'm trying to think. I mean, it's just gone kind of in cycles, like Judge Toon said. You know, our number of victims here in Mesquite has gone down significantly since, say, 2009 and prior to that. And I don't think that I've had anyone go into shelter or request shelter through me. Sometimes they can go into it themselves without going through me. If they call the 800 number, then it's made available to them. And I wouldn't know, I wouldn't get those stats because of confidentiality. But in the past, yes, there are times when they have used the shelter.
I hate to draw this to conclusion. This is very informative. Cindy Delaney and I happened to stop at the judge's office one day, and he put together this group. And I hope it was an educational information for all of you. I think we need to pass this on to all your friends, all your neighbors, and we need more attention. Yoli, there's a pamphlet up here. All the phone numbers are on the back side of this domestic violence for the Safe Nest, if you want to pick that up here. That answers your question? Mm-hmm. All right, thank you. We have what we have as an honorary member. Membership to the League of Women Voters, because we do accept men. We don't let you talk a lot, but we will let you know.
I discovered that.
We'd like to thank you very much for if you would like to stay until the meeting's over with and then ask them questions later, or, well, we're not doing that yet.
We did have a question back here, and it was shut off. Do we want to, would you like to?
That was me.
Would you like to go ahead and ask that question?
The question I had was really a statistical one. You mentioned, Officer Chesley, you mentioned that statistics sometimes don't tell the whole story. My question specifically was, do we have any idea of how many of the arrests or the incidents that take place is repeat offenders?
Oh.
I didn't bring this stat.
That was something that it might be relevant, might not be relevant, but the statistics don't tell the whole story. The other question follow up to that was, in DUI cases, many jurisdictions also go back to the bartender or the establishment that got the guy drunk in the first place, or the female. Is there any kind of way that could be considered? Is that a possibility within the state?
As far as domestic violence, or as far as DUI, you mean?
Yes, no, the domestic violence, doing the same thing you would do with a DUI, go back to the...
Well, here in Nevada we don't have it's called a shopkeeper or tavern keeper rule. We don't have one of those here in Nevada. So, you know, if we had one under DUI, I think it'd be a creative idea to use that same statute to apply it through a DV. That may work, but I don't think we even have the legal ability to do that in this state because of our statute.
Thank you, thank you.
Well, the casinos would allow that anyway, would they?
That is why we don't have that rule.
Okay, well, I think that the question, I'm gonna just rephrase Gloria's question a little bit. I think the real question was, is the fact that the closest Safe Nest house is in Las Vegas a deterrent to some of these people wanting to go into a safe house? Do people say, no, I won't go because I'd have to go to Las Vegas?
Well, some of them obviously don't want to go to Las Vegas. There's been occasions here where I've used for emergency housing some of the hotels. We've been gracious enough to donate a room or comp a room for them until they could either get to family or friends or decide what they wanted to do. Where it wasn't safe for them to go home, say the abuser he was not in jail and maybe it hadn't been reported to the police and they chose not to report it to the police. You know, and if it's an emergency situation where we do need, and I'm not able to get them down to the shelter, I have used the local hotels here, and that would be one resource to have. You know, with the hotels, that would be my wish list. And obviously you can't ask the hotels to keep a room designated, and you wouldn't want that information anyway to get out because of the safety.
Well, like I said, I think in a fictitious scenario, there's a woman or man, they have a job here, they have kids, there's been a domestic violence situation, and they are afraid to go home, but they don't want to leave here and they don't have any place else here to go. Do they say, no, I can't leave because I don't want to go to Las Vegas?
So I have had some say that,
Okay.
yes.
I think that was part of Claudia's question.
I think most of the victims that go into shelter, they realize what a serious situation it is and how much of a dangerous situation it is, and that they do need help, and they desperately need help. A lot of them will say, no, everything will be okay, you know, it'll smooth over, and that's what people try to hope for, and that's what everybody's working against as far as their attitudes.
She had a comment, your comment?
We don't have a password?
I think that we have been able to keep victims safe here in Mesquite just through what we're doing right now.
I had a quick question. Do you ever send people to the Dove Center in St. George?
If they want to go back to Utah, I have talked with the Dove Center, yes. And there's a lot of people victims, they will come down, say from the St. George area to the casinos. They get into a situation where it turns into a domestic violence, but they're from the St. George area, and I have contacted the Dove Center for them or given that information. Also, we have Scenic and we have Beaver Dam, who it's Arizona. And, I also have talked with, victims from there. That's not normally from an arrest that has happened on the abuser, but it's usually when they'll just come in and talk to me. And we have an advocate, Arizona has an advocate who comes and handles that area. And so she will help them as far as if they need TPOs or they need to follow through with any court proceedings or anything in family court, that she helps the same way I do, but it has to be done in Arizona because they're from Scenic or from Beaver Dam.